So how do we apply this to every day? Everyone's still with me? Good. So if this is what personal opinion, but I think if you get this combination of things right, if you're trusted, you're delivering on effectiveness, you are behaving like a partnership, and we're going to talk about what partnership actually means, because clearly long gone are the days where the agency relationship is them and us. But it wasn't that long ago I really, really felt like there was a them and us. And hard work. So getting started. I've talked about this getting under the skin of the business thing. I'd like you to all just think about some of your accounts. How often, if you're in retail, I imagine you are doing the spending time in store, but in your other clients, how often do you say, right, I'm going to your contact centre, I'm going to spend a day listening to customers. Those guys, they're on 16 grand a year, they will tell you more about customers than anyone else, not someone who's sitting in head office. Spending time with front-facing teams is so important. Spending time watching customers. I used to have a guy on retainer, and whenever my next job is, I will take him with me. He was a guy called John Armstrong. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's a behavioural psychologist. And I paid him to every week hang out in the station, sit in the business lounge. He had access to all areas on security. And his job was to come and just give me a sense of what's happening. If there was a particular problem, I'd throw him into a focus group situation. But the insights he would come up with, just hanging out with customers, getting a feel for what's going on, invaluable. I had to employ him because I wasn't getting that from my agencies. But that's the kind of stuff that means getting really under the skin of a business. We've talked about what keeps me awake at night. Find out what's keeping them awake. You never know. It might be something completely left field. And then go away and think about how you can help them sleep. And I don't mean drugs. I mean solving their problems, although that might help sometimes. Understand the matrix of influence. Understand, really in the business, who's influencing who, when to pull people in. Who else? As a sales director, I never heard from the agency. When Greg Nugent was the marketing director of Eurostar, I was his work wife, constantly argued, never had sex, just like most marriages. But really, and that's true, but really, the agency should have spent time with me because he didn't do anything unless he'd run it by me. Summerstown wouldn't have happened had I not agreed to it. And then, because also, what else? Greg was seen as a bit of a maverick in the business. I was a safe pair of hands. If Emma said it should happen, largely it happened. So he needed me to always come in at the side and whisper in the ear of the commercial director, we should do this. But did the agencies ever court me? No. The minute I get marketing director on my title, they're like, rat up a drain pipe. So think about find out who are the main, how many of you ever spend time with sales directors? Bet it's none of you. So find out who those key people are. Might be customer service director, might be finance director. Find out who those people are. Our finance director was very charming, in my top 3. And he loved hanging out at the agencies, but they didn't involve him. But when it came to the pitch, he was one of the most important people. So, find out who these people are. Set up clear meeting structure. Now, I know this is basics, but it doesn't happen. And how boring is diary management? But if you know that you've got that absolutely 2 weekly or weekly, even if it's a weekly call, and then what will happen is, from a client point of view, you log your list of things to talk about. So you're not constantly picking up the phone, emailing, texting. You have an organised way of communication. This is basic stuff, but it doesn't tend to happen. And then it's, we've got to come back with a sign-off and we can't get in her diary because she's been in blah, blah. Get it nailed very early on, regular piece. So I know I'm going to see them on Friday, I'll talk to them about it then. Establish clear lines of communication as well. Who's going to speak to who? It really pisses me off when I don't hear from a CEO until something's gone wrong. Where I know when I look at my phone, there's a CEO on the phone, I know it's because I've said no to something and someone's gone back and said, she won't say no, but they like you. Get the lines of communication really clear from day one, so that everyone knows at what level they're talking to and how often, so it doesn't just become about a sort of crisis communication. Set expectations from both sides. How much would I love if my agency told me what my role is with them? Because you probably think, all the other client, but that's absolute, bollocks. How great, particularly at the beginning of a relationship, this is what I expect from you. When we're in a sign-off process, I want response in this way. and you need to give us access to this. I mean, regular information. How bad are we as clients at giving you guys regular information? And we get dashboards every week. Do we share them with you? All that sort of stuff. You've got to boss us and tell us what we need to do to make your lives better. Get drunk with them. Now, this is going to become a recurring theme in this presentation. But you cannot build a relationship with a client in an office once a week. No matter how often you're seeing them, and I know you guys can go, we do this. Do you do it enough? Do you do it and get out and don't get out and talk about the campaign? Get out and find out about their kids or find out about their relationships. Because once you feel emotionally connected, I had an agency that I had at Eurostar. I should have pitched them a long time ago, but I cared about them. Now that might just be me. I genuinely cared about the people and I could see they were working hard, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt. It goes such a long way. Being really properly connected, and that means getting them out. Don't always take them to, Glamorama. You don't have to take them to STK every week. Take them to the pub. Just get under their skin. Ways of building trust. So be prepared to learn. Again, I know I'm going to keep repeating myself because that's how you embed learning. But be prepared to learn. Have your ears open. You don't have to constantly prove that you're clever. We know you're clever. That's why you do the jobs you do. Ask lots of questions. Get the basics right. That's what creates trust. If you say, I'll get back to you tomorrow, simple thing, we'll get back to you tomorrow, and you don't. It's a tiny thing, but those things erode relationships and those things erode trust. I know my account director says they're going to do this, they do it. That is a basic, that's trust. Confirm everything in writing. Again, this is basic stuff, but reality is a construct. I know that's a saying people hear. The reason why reality is a construct is because everything I'm saying now and this whole hour will be a very different experience for every single one of you and for me, because we all have our own deletions, distortions and representations inside us, starting to slip into NLP now. So because of that, you might walk out of a room going, oh, they really loved that, or they really liked that bit. Unless you confirm it in writing and get a yes, you're right, it's amazing how often, again, think about the pitch, they went straight off over here because they didn't check. So confirming stuff in writing is, hopefully you're all doing it, but if you do it more, do it constantly, drive us mad. Respond in good time, obvious thing. There's nothing more depressing than having a really good meeting and you don't hear from someone for a week, and then you think, well, you didn't really listen, did you? And you're not that excited. Honesty, admit when things are wrong. There's nothing more obvious when people are trying to cover up for the fact, well, we couldn't get the photo shoot and blah, blah, blah. Just say, right, this doesn't happen, and then just manage it. That creates trust, because when you find things out afterwards, that's when it gets scary. Get drunk with them. This is a quote I had from, actually it was the head of talent in a very big agency when I was preparing a session for their account directors. This agency only works for this group of people. And the reason I put that up there is because it shows the pressure that you guys are under. Massive pressure, internally and externally. You're the in-betweeners. Because we expect you to work for us. We expect you to, I want you to die in a ditch for me. I want you to be my internal representative within the agency. And then your agency expects you to be deadly loyal to them. So you have this sort of difficult role where you're running in between. But you're the grip for me. You're the grip. You're the ones that will make it happen. And that's why it's really important that you are the group of people that manage expectations well. That I know that, I'll leave a meeting, you guys are going to go and sort it out. And if you can't sort it out, you're going to be honest about that. Push internally when you have to. There's nothing more depressing than having a meeting and saying, well, did you challenge that? So going through, for example, a cost structure on an ad and going through it line by line. So, well, did you challenge that? Did you challenge that? Obviously, we're going to push that back. So do it first. So when you're coming in to go through a budget, you go, that's the barest bone. We've already challenged, we've already gone back. Don't wait for me to ask to have to do that. So I expect you to push internally. Don't come back, well, the creative said no. Go and argue with them then. Know when to challenge who. So know exactly that, how to push back on my, I can't stop it, can I? On my behalf. And manage that it's a very delicate balance that you guys have to manage. So serve the idea, not the individual. So be true to the insight and be true to the process. If it's something I love, but it's not going to work, then tell me. If it's something that, the creative director thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's not going to work, then tell them. But serve the idea, serve the purpose. And I know this sounds really obvious, but it's amazing how often that does not happen. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh yeah, I remember when that didn't happen. Be sure what success looks like. Again, going into a process, what is the one thing, and in the brief it should be clear, but just be careful. Sometimes it might be about driving an internal change. Or for example, with a social media platform, it might be the most important thing about this launch is to integrate and test how it works across the business. Because if you're exposed, as some of us have been, with a crisis, how do we make sure that we're not just pumping out marketing? So be sure to have that success criteria, not just about an ROI or about increase in sales or preference, whatever. Be sure that you really get what success looks like. Think about us in the shower. Now, controversial perhaps, but the thing that used to frustrate me is when I felt that there were bigger clients in the agency and that they were the ones that you guys were thinking about. Because Eurostar's a big brand, but the budget's not huge. And there are a lot of clients out there, I'm sure you've got, where you've got bigger clients. But those tiny things that you can do that make me feel that you wake up thinking about my problems. So, oh, I saw this article on blah, blah, and you mentioned the other day that that was an issue. Or I'd like to invite you to, something tiny that you think actually that's going to help solve one of the things that's keeping them awake at night. Make me feel like you're thinking about me constantly. If I tell you that I'm going to a wedding, ask me how the wedding was. If I've got a big meeting with my CEO, text me and say, how did it go? So make sure that your clients feel you are constantly aware of what's going on in their world. Right, I'm sure you're all bored of my PowerPoint slides. Sorry, I don't have a design department anymore to design them for me. So I thought I'd put some pictures up. So the ideal, we talked about partnership, the ideal partnership. Who can guess what my cryptic pictures are? The first one. Anyone remember World in Action? No? Any ideas what that is? Human. It's a bit rubbish, isn't it? I should come up with a better one. But it's quite hard finding just a picture of a person. That's quite boring. Human, human, human. There's nothing, well, I keep saying there's nothing more depressing, but there are clearly lots of things because I've listed them all. But when you're in a meeting, particularly with a marketing director, because I'm sure, marketing directors can be quite bossy and scary, but just be yourself. When you're presenting ideas, when you're standing up and speaking, just remember, talk to them like you're talking to your mates in the pub. Not maybe literally, but, being more relaxed, being relaxed in a relationship means that people will get to know you. So be really you, be human. And that's the thing, like how was the wedding? How were your kids? Did you buy those shoes, importantly? What's the second one? Listening. And I'm going to keep banging on about this as well, but listen. Listen and show your listen. Active listening. This is active listening. Liz is very good at active listening. I can see lots of nodding here. There's quite a few of you actually very good at listening. So active listening. So don't just sit there and write. Show your listening. Now everyone's going to feel the pressure to nod. Don't worry. But active listening. And then again, writing, confirming, shows your listening. Listening isn't just a passive thing. Active listening. The next one, there's a bit of a giveaway. Brand. And what I mean by that is make sure that you realise brand is not just about communication. Brand is about delivery, particularly now. Every part of that business has to get what a brand is. It's not about logos and colours. Most people, you ask a customer service person, what's your brand? They'll show you your logo. How can you help your clients integrate that brand across the business? What are you doing to help when there's a new campaign come out? It used to be, we've got a new ad, let's send out an email. This is our new advert, so everyone sees it before the public. It's about so much more than that now. How do you make sure that this business is oozing brand, that every corner of it is supporting your communication? So thinking about, and this is the next one, this is about your role in their business. Being not just about a media plan or about a piece of creative. You're their support. You're the brand police. You're the brand advocates. You're the people that can help a client really, really deliver on what their promise is. And what's this? Any ideas? Support, but more specifically, what's my next job? Anyone know? Because that would be really good. No. I'll just turn one down, terrifying. That is about saying, if I'm the marketing director, how do you get me to be the CEO? If that's what I want, which I wouldn't want to in a corporate, it's too political. But, you know, what is my next job and how are you going to help me get there? A brand manager, how are you going to help them become a senior brand manager? How are you going to help your head of marketing become a marketing director? Making them look good, thinking about, you know, so getting them really well networked and sharing learning with them, making sure you're taking them with you. Thinking about, and there's very few marketing directors. I'm working with the Marketing Academy at the moment on a new program for CMOs and marketing directors. And we've got loads of mentors that are CEOs and finance directors, because it's terrible. A brand is a core purpose of a business. Your brand is your spirit as a business. Marketing directors and CMOs should be obvious next step for CEO, but it's always finance director, it's always COO. So what we're trying to do is help the marketing director get that broader spectrum, help them. Success. And that's just, again, repeating, be sure that you really understand what success looks like for me. How you know, or for your client. So really, it might not just be having, you know, getting on the front page of campaign, which I do think sometimes that's what agencies think is a criteria for success. Listening. Might have mentioned this before. Demonstrate active listening. Check understanding. So let me just be sure you don't like this ad because the girl's hair is wrong. That's okay. You know, make sure you're checking for understanding. Be prepared to be flexible. Don't just come back with an almond croissant. Come back with a bacon sandwich. Come back with something completely different. Funny, I'm talking about food all the time. Pick your battles. Know when to say, this has got to be done. This is the right thing. This is the right thing for the brand. This will deliver. And when not to. Pick your battles with me, with my team, internally. You know, make sure that you're really, really putting your foot down when it matters. Do what you say you're going to do. So that's part of listening. I'll be back to you tomorrow, get back to you tomorrow. Now I'm starting to repeat myself, but this is the learning. Know when to escalate. So know when I've got to get a call from the CEO because I'm not listening. Don't do it when it doesn't need to be done. So just understand. Again, that's about getting that matrix of communication right. Focus in on the detail. So I don't like that ad. I don't like that. That's wrong. That's not going to work for us. I remember a time when, and the reason I said about the woman's hair, where an agency presented some creative and I was just like, no, I don't like it. But they funneled me down to try and get me to understand what is it I didn't like. It was the woman's hair. I know that makes me sound really shallow. For me, it didn't represent the brand. It was so far off. Yes, the words were wrong as well, but we could work on that. But I wanted to throw it out. It was actually this awful woman that they'd used with terrible hair. And it just, for me, I wouldn't let her on the train if it was up to me. You're all standing there thinking, well, you've got shit hair as well. But honestly, it was really awful. And so, you know, use funnel of questioning. So tell us what it is you don't like, Emma. Well, I don't like it. Okay, what is it you don't like? Tell us, is it the colours? No. Is it the words? No. Is it the woman? Maybe. Okay. Is it her hair? You know, that's an extreme example. You'd never get there that quickly. But use a funnel of questioning, because otherwise sometimes you might throw out good work because you haven't got under the skin of it. Making an impact. I'm trying to make my slides more interesting, right? Making impact. So making impact, this is the whole thing about we want to show you that we're clever in the right way. So prove yourself early on, and that's the little thing about, I saw this article, I thought you'd like it. You know, that's about just being absolutely concrete, say you're going to do something, do it. Show listening, take them out, get them drunk, all that stuff. Be the trusted one, be the go-to person. I like hearing, leave it with me. I'll sort it. You can't say that enough. I'll deal with it, leave it with me. Remember and act on the detail. Again, remember the little things that are bothering us. Act on them, not just the big ones. Show you're prepared to stick your neck out. Show you're prepared to go the extra mile. I mean, this is sort of basic stuff I'm sure you do internally all the time. I'm sure you do with the clients all the time. But again, the sort of little things make a huge difference. Listen to the team to get a feeling of your role. And what I mean by that is, it might be really important for you to have access to the marketing director, for you, or the CMO, for you. But actually, if her or his role is more about the sort of political, working with the CEO, delivering internally, then make sure that your focus is on the head of marketing or the brand manager. But really listen to the team to get a feeling of how you're doing, and ask for feedback. When was the last time any of you said to your client, how am I doing? Could I do anything differently? Could I do better? And not in terms of your monthly question, would you recommend this agency? Yes or no, and then you get a phone going, you said no, what's the problem? Do it over a beer. Do it, you know, grab them, say, can we grab a coffee after the meeting? How am I doing? What could I be doing differently? What should I be doing more of? What should I be doing? What's annoying you? What's keeping you awake at night? Ask for feedback on your performance. When you do 360s, do you include the client? Some of you might do, but you know, really ask that. Oh, that's brilliant. Asking for feedback, managing expectations, all this stuff. Go above and beyond, we've talked about. Trust the team to feed back to the chief. I know who in the agency is delivering or who isn't. Doesn't matter whether I see you or speak to you. Just trust. And why that's important is because it means when you do get access to the marketing director or CMO, if you don't very often, you'll feel the need to say loads of things to show that you're doing a great job. Trust. They know who is delivering and who isn't. Get drunk with them. And why it's important to get drunk with the other agencies as well is what I said before. There's nothing better than feeling that your media agency, your digital agency, I mean, who knows how long we're going to have all these millions of other agencies. But, you know, whoever you are in that team, make sure you're all talking together, particularly now, where it's no longer just about, here's a piece of creative, how are we going to do a media plan? It's also integrated. Often, the method is the message. So media, digital, social, creative has to be presented as one big ball. So you guys have got to come and present to me as if you're my support team. So make me feel like that. So go out and get hammered together. The creative process. This is how it works generally, I think. A lot of binge eating, discouraged napping and random internet surfing, a little bit of inspiration and work. That's that's my tick, now I've done a joke. So your role in the creative process. The briefing is key, an obvious thing to say, but you know, not just briefing in terms of what's on the brief, that process of sign off and time scales, because it can drag and you need to hassle us. I mean, it might just be a personal experience, but I find that's where a lot of time is wasted in that toing and froing of briefing. So again, at the outset of a new relationship, or even if it's not a new relationship, go in and say, right, here's a new way of working. This is how we work with briefs, and this is the timescales, and everyone knows what's happening, and everyone is aware of what time they've got to come back on what area. Preempt their opinion. I want you to look at the brief as if you're me. So look at the creative with my hat on, not yours, not the creative directors, with me or with whoever your client is in the team. So my opinion, not yours. It's amazing how often you can get a team of very cool, very clever agency people who are telling you about this thing that only they really know. And you just think, most of my audience, I mean, particularly, for example, when you're selling Disney, you're talking about shell suits and you know, that sort of demographic, and they'd come in with something that it would make them go to Disney, but they're not going to go to Disney. So think about me and my customers, not what you guys think is cool. Listen carefully. Stick to the narrative. How often do, you know, and this I know is obvious stuff, and I'm sure you're all thinking we do that anyway, but do you? And remember to always do it. Stick to the narrative. Stick to the insight. Listen carefully to feedback and confirm everything in writing. Think about that pitch process. We love that. That's it. Do a piece of research, go left field, and go completely off. So keep confirming, particularly if you're going back into creative and coming back with something new. Just pick up the phone and check. Use the funnel. Was it the colours? Was it the woman? Was it her hair? What was it? Don't allow the repackaging ideas, and that is about saying, look, it was an almond croissant, now it's chocolate. Honestly, though, I can't tell you how often that happens. It's the same thing. I remember it from last week. Challenge the creatives to make sure that the feedback you get from us is 100% delivered on. I said the text didn't work. Why have you come back with the same text? And the lead in fair isn't right. Oh, I've had some fun. So that's, in terms of your role in the creative process, really important. Don't sit back and think, oh, the creative director's presenting, I can just sit back and take some notes. Your role in that is absolutely key, particularly in terms of being efficient.